We are going to talk about the community resilience perspectives today. We have the Professor Anastasios Sextos from University of Bristol and Maria Santo from University of Bristol. I'm Rishi Parazuli from University of Bristol, and we have Yadav Mainali. He used to work with Save the Children, and he was the one of the partner in Safer project in Nepal, who is mostly working in the field with the communities and so on. So we are going to talk about the different challenges, gaps, and all the tools so the academia and the professionals can come together, how the resilience things would be better. So initially, I would like to start with Professor Sextos to introduce about the community resilience assessment tools that a project has developed and how it evolved through the collaborations and so on.
Thank you very much, Rishi. It has been a great pleasure to have with us Yadav Mainali. He is a great collaborator, as you probably, or some of the people in the audience know. We have been running together with Save the Children in Nepal a large framework for enhancing the structural safety of school buildings and also the community resilience of everybody that was working on operating around the educational process. And in this effort in Nepal, Yadav has been instrumental in helping us through the excellent organization of field visits to understand very well the local context, to be able to reach areas that wouldn't be reachable easily for us, and to prepare everything in a very detailed and rigorous manner so that we were then able to reach out to different entities of the educational communities and find out more about the people, co-produce our frameworks, and do a lot of joint research with him. So my point here is only to introduce him and thank him for his enormous contribution to the success of the Safer project. And now I would like to pass on to you, Rishi, to coordinate this interview by asking the following questions. Thank you very much, Yadav.
Thank you, Professor Stasas, for warming up the session. So I would like to go to the Yadav Mainali. Could you please introduce yourself? Yeah, we know you as a person. However, for our audience, can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you very much, Dr. Tassos, for your nice words, and thank you, Maria, and thank you, Rishi, for this great opportunity. So, though I'm not currently with Save Children, but thank you so much for recognizing me for the effort that we have made together to bring this project successful. My name is Yadav Mainali. So I used to work with Save the Children as a senior construction manager in Nepal country office, but currently I'm working with other organization. So I was focal person for Safer project from Save Children side in Nepal. And by training, I'm a civil engineer.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your introduction. And I know, and I believe you have worked in Nepal and many other countries too, in related to the disaster risk reduction and so on. So can you give us some examples for cases where DRR was addressed efficiently by the government or non-government agencies? So any examples anywhere would be better.
Maybe better to share the example from Nepal because I know much better than other country. So while talking about DRR, so Nepal government, they have already endorsed comprehensive school safety framework. So all the schools need to follow that comprehensive school safety framework. And the outcome from the Safer project, the community resilience tool will be definitely helpful and supportive to implement that comprehensive school safety framework as well. In Nepal, the school, the public school, they have to prepare school improvement plan. So normally they prepare five-year plan, and annually that plan will be updated. We call the school improvement plan. So the process before preparing the school improvement plan is school have to conduct the self assessment together with different communities, like with the parents, the teacher, or the school staff, and with the children. So they made self-assessment, and they come up with their recommendation, which should be incorporated in the SIP, school improvement plan. And based on their recommendation, they prepare a school annual plan and also prepare the budget. So this is the process to prepare the school implement plan. And entire the process, DRR is one of the component that should be included in the school improvement plan. But in reality, many schools, especially in the rural communities, they don't have like such a capacity to understand the DRR, what is DRR, or resilience school or resilience educational community. They don't have such type of understanding. So need to facilitate them to realize and to understand the DRR associated with the school or educational community. So that is lacking, that is a challenge. So many schools, like getting support from different NGOs, they are doing well. But in those schools where they don't have access with other NGOs and INGOs, they are being bit lacking to incorporate this DRR in their school improvement plan. So this is the one of the like area that need to be improved. And government is trying to address these issues, but still they are facing challenges. So our SAFER project, school resilience tool, is one of the instrumental tool, because this has been designed so that the school they can use themselves. During the preparation time, we receive feedback from children, feedback from parents, from teachers, head teachers, and schools management committee members as well. So different since the beginning, like we have a history, like before developing the tool, we had a series of conversation workshop with the school communities, and then we developed the tool. We tested that tool and received feedback from the beneficiaries or the stakeholders. And then again, we developed the mobile application tool, and that was also tested in different schools. And again, we modified, updated, and revised and finalized. So this is a very instrumental tool that covers different disciplines, and school can use that tool themselves. And the outcomes of the survey or can be, I think that can be sent back to schools, and they can realize what is the gap in their school resilience components. And these gaps can be addressed while preparing the school improvement plan or annual plan. And similarly, the municipalities or rural municipalities, they can also adopt that tool to do the survey or assessment entire their municipalities, entire the schools. And outcomes from all the schools, they can identify the gaps and area need to be improvement, so that the municipalities can also allocate their budget during their plan. Because normally municipalities, they have to allocate a certain percentage for the education sector. So if they identify these gaps from the assessment, that will be easy for them to allocate the budget for the educational resilience. So these are some of the benefit of that tool that I have seen throughout the process.
Mhm. Thank you very much, Dr. Mainali, for this very insightful and very appropriately put answer. It is very informative for our audience to know about these governmental responses regarding resilience. Before I move to my question, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned about gaps and also challenges in terms of how people understand resilience. Would you like to provide us some insight, especially from, I was wondering whether you talk about people in the communities, like, you know, ordinary people that you go, you visit, and you talk to them about resilience and DRR, or you talk about decision makers, governmental members and actors.
Yeah, I little bit explained about the gaps on their understanding. Just for example, if community, they are building a school building in the school, just think about completing the school building. They don't like think, or they, maybe due to the lack of understanding, they forget about the other hazards associated with that building, and all the hazards around the schools, like landslide or hurricane, or like cyclone, other hazards, they forget about it. Just they want new building, and even they don't have like building need to be resilient. Like in Nepal, we have earthquake is a main hazard. Earthquake, we are in the earthquake prone area. So even in the community, most of the community, they don't know about the building should be earthquake resistant and other hazards. So we need to like convince them, like while constructing a building in a school, only building is not a component. There are other components: structural, non-structural, behavioral. We talk about the safe school environment, then structural and other component is also associated with that, like behavior with the behavior of the teachers and with the children's, behavior of the parents toward the teachers. So that is also some parts of the school resilience. So that is still lacking. So that should be also improved, I think, in the school.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, I don't know whether you finished, but would you like to, I mean, wrap up, or may I move on?
No, maybe hope I understood your question, and just trying to like confirm.
Great. So thank you very much.
Associate, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just said that as this is informal and we're gonna cut it out, we can say anything we want in the the middle. And personally, I was very pleased with your answer, Yadav. Straight to the point. Very interesting content. So you answered very, very well. So no need to repeat that.
Yes, absolutely. So may I move to my next question? We will cut this bit. Okay. So, Dr. Mainali, since you hinted on the different ways that people perceive multiple hazards, so I want you to let us know more about what the people's perception of multiple hazard are, what is, because there is different ways of perception. You will tell us more about this from your experience, and whether the decision makers appreciate that, as you, I'm sure that you told them many times, that we need to be resilient to multiple hazards as well. I mean, I'm sure that you raised the flag, and you mentioned that we need to be a multidisciplinary, I mean, in a way to take into consideration multiple hazards. Would you like to talk more about this? Two different things: people's perception and the how whether decision makers appreciate that we need to be resilient to multiple hazards as well, not just focusing on one hazard.
Yeah, when we talk about the decision makers, so Nepal, we have recently entered in the federal system. So the local government, just they have completed one election cycle. So this is just their learning, I think, learning period for them. So still they don't have a much more capacity to incorporate all these in their planning process. So that is another area that the other partners or developing partners or other organizations, they can support to the decision makers. Though they have they have units, now they have units in municipalities, the education units is there, but still they don't have like enough capacity. So realizing them the multi-hazard perspective and how that can be addressed and how to incorporate in their planning process, that is another area. So that need to be improved, because recently they have we have new election and new leaders are in the rural community, in the local government. So from their previous experience, maybe they are willing to incorporate all these things in their planning process, but the budget is another gap, and understanding in another part. Because if they have good understanding on the local hazards or multiple hazards or DRR in the education sector, and that need to be addressed, then gradually they can improve it, and they can incorporate in their planning. So that is one area. And previously I explained about in the community, the understanding is also lacking. Some of the hazards or some of the components can be addressed with their local knowledge without any budget implication. They have their indigenous knowledge, technologies, but need to trigger out that. And if they realize without any budget implication, that can be improved with the simple things. So that is another area that we have to closely interact with the community. We have to engage them, and they can come up with the solution. I think that is my perception.
And also this, what you said about indigenous knowledge is really very insightful and very important. So what types of indigenous knowledge do you think that people like you on the field may able to dig out and promote within the people in order to self-protect the community and themselves?
Just for example, like I would like to relate with our engineering knowledge. So while constructing stone masonry building, we used to say like we are saying we need to put the throw stone or bands, concrete bands need to be incorporated in the masonry building to make an earthquake resilience structure. So when we go to the community, especially like in Nepal, in rural community, they had that knowledge. They were using throw stone, long stone at the corners. They were using like timber bands instead of RCC. Obviously, timber bands they were using even in Dolpa, Jumla. I have seen such type of technology they were using. But now with the modernization, so they left that technology and they started to construct frame structure without appropriate knowledge and without any engineering, applying any engineering knowledge, just putting four numbers of reinforcement, 10 die reinforcement, and they put the columns, and they thinking like we have a frame structure, RCC building, and it will be safe. So if we can like convince them with their indigenous knowledge and try to relate that knowledge without engineering term, then that will be really helpful. And I like for soil, for the landscape or soil erosion, they have some like kind of bamboo tree, small bamboo tree and other plants they were using to protect that landslide. So we can realize them, these are the like bioengineering. We are using, engineers also using these plants in our bioengineering, and that are very helpful for the soil erosion or like landslide protection. Then that, so such type of engineers knowledge is already there. So we need to like realize them. These are also the good and also the engineers, they are using it, so they can realize it, and that can be easily incorporated without any budget implication, I think.
Can I just ask and actually share a comment with you, Yadav, and feel free to discuss further. I remember in one of our visits to some of the villages that we traveled together to, when we were talking to the local people, there were cases where we had to somehow blend the scientific knowledge or the technical advice with their own experience. Because, for example, there were cases where new buildings, reinforced concrete buildings, were built in the village, but because of low quality of construction during the Gorkha earthquake, the people were seeing reinforced concrete buildings as not very as safe as they can be. This was their personal experience out of what they actually saw. They saw pancake collapses of reinforced concrete buildings. Therefore, this blending of what people know from experience and what people know technically needs somehow to be blended for an efficient resilience enhancement. It is not something that somebody can just inject into a community saying, oh, I'm a scientist, oh, I'm a technical director, you've got to do this. That's impossible. What do you think?
Yeah, thank you, Tasos. Yeah, I remember the conversation. Yeah, but I think they have realized, because the engineer designed building and supervised by the engineers, the RCC building has not been collapsed in many cases. And those RCC building, without any engineers involvement, without any consultation with the engineers, they just adapted, they constructed themselves, that has been collapsed. So now they have realized, if we have to construct the RCC frame structure, we need to consult with the engineers. I think that is they have realized now. And they also have like believe that our indigenous technology was also good, because many houses, the old houses was not damaged, but the new RCC frame structure buildings have been damaged. So they have also like they have believed that our technology was also good, but need to adapt that engineers technology. So I think that's my perception.
Okay, thank you, Tasos, for your comment, and Yadav for your nice. This is very good comprehensive answers. So we are talking about the engineering things. Now you talked about the indigenous knowledge that is actually the engineering thing that has been applied in the several structures from centuries in the community level, like stone bands or the timber bands, the locks and the beams and so on. So apart from that, I would like to focus a little bit on our work, our project that is mainly focusing on the community resilience of the educational community, that we had focused on the only with the educational community, focusing on the safe, on the education under the safe environment. So we have worked for about 3 years and had conducted several workshops, had conducted several surveys. I would like to get some of your experience. I would like to request to share some of your experiences through that process. And at the same time, as you a professional practitioner there, how you look the community, how they are tackling with the different things that we have considered in our project tools. So I would like to know a more insight from your perspective as an active member of the project, and also as a member of that country, as a citizen of that country that you have observed from outside.
Thank you, Siji. Yeah, the community during the process. So in some of the workshop, you were also we visited a school together and we conducted workshops. So even just I would like to recall the quotation from head teacher, one of the head teachers. Actually, we were piloting the tool and getting also feedback from them. So he said, like, even after doing the pilot test or like going through the questionnaires of that tool, they realized that we need to do something that we have been forgetting, and the simple things that can be done without any efforts. So we were forgetting these things. So I have realized some things from these questionnaires. So one of the head teacher was saying like that. So they have appreciated the tool, and when we discuss about the intention of the tool and how it can be used in the school and how school can be benefited, then they really appreciate it. And because that the tool is can be used as anonymous and can get feedback from separately from teachers, from students and parents. So I think that will be very helpful for them to get the honest feedback on their work, and also feedback for the resilience school community. So their perception is very positive. And even while talking with the government officials, local community leaders, they were also like positive, and they were suggesting it can be used widely if from the government side, if it will be rolled out entire the country. That will be very beneficial for the education ministry or department as well. So these are their feedback, I think.
Yeah, we have collected more than 3,000 responses from different stakeholders from the educational community, from school management committee, head teachers, and students and parents too. So when we looked at the data, as you mentioned, like the gap between their understanding, how they perceive the things around there, like not only from the engineering perspective, because if we consider that after the Gorkha earthquake 2015, almost all of the buildings, I would say almost all of the buildings in the earthquake affected areas are now seismically enhanced. Either they retrofitted or newly built under the proper design and guidelines. So the next step on those areas would be not only the structural things, because they are in one stage, so they are more resilient now. However, the education is not only depends on the building structure. So here in our tool, we have also incorporate all other disciplines, including the social science, which really deal with the people, how they feel, and how their even their psychology, their understanding and so on. So here I would like to ask Dr. Maria, as a social scientist, so how you feel in working in this particular subject with engineers mainly, because we were mainly the civil engineers, and among that, most of them are structural engineers. So how you feel these things and how it goes?
Well, thank you very much for your wonderful question, Rishi. I must say, and being inspired by Yadav's answer, I must say that civil engineers do take into account multiple problems, not only structural problems, but since their duty is to respond to structural problems, they respond to that. But as Yadav mentioned, in our team, we tried to approach the disruption caused in Nepalese communities due to the great earthquake with respect to their traditions, to their institutions, and of course, to try to help the community respond with what they already have had as a community of people. So what Yadav said, that tradition is really important, institutions is important, caring for one another is really number one for allowing these communities to respond to this major challenge, and also to major challenges like, because in our research project, as Yadav mentioned again, we didn't take into consideration only the disruption caused by earthquake. I remember you, Rishi, you also mentioned that, for example, lightnings and landslides is a major concern for children. So we took also into account these parameters. So what is really important, and I'm sure, as I told you, that of course I had a major role in taking into account all this, but civil engineers do want to approach community because they collaborate with members of the community. Otherwise, they won't be successful, and they won't call up. They won't respond to what they to their duty. So their main cause, their main concern, our main concern was to collaborate with the community, not to disrupt them or to be instructive, like you should do this or you should do that. We try to adapt ourselves to respect the community and also adapt our approaches accordingly. So from this point of view, I think I'm allowed to say that our approach was successful, because we took into consideration the local societies, the local communities, and we want them to become our partners. We didn't paternalize them. We learned from them, because as Yadav said, these people have developed an indigenous and historical knowledge. They lived there for thousands of years. Their ancestors had experienced earthquakes and other extreme hazards, because Nepal is a country with it's on the Himalayas. All things that happen are extreme. So, but people continue to live there. So respect, adaptability, collaboration with the local community, taking into account other people's views, I think is the key knowledge. And also this is what helped me apply my ideas. And of course, I was also influenced by the engineers themselves. So this is my view about this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Maria. It's a really great pleasure and having your contribution in this project. So I just would like to mention that under the Safer project, we have a web app and the mobile app where we have two different sections. One is the structural condition assessment, which is pre-earthquake and post-earthquake. And the other one is the community resilience self-assessment tool, where to assess the structures, you need to have a civil engineer or a structural engineer who has the good knowledge of structural and earthquake engineering. However, we designed the community resilience self-assessment tool that can be implemented by the community people. So it's not required technically proficient to use it. So they can simply follow the guidelines and do the self-assessment year by year, whatever and whenever they need. So coming back to the point, I would like to ask Adam, so how do you feel that these type of tools can help the communities to become more resilient? And at the same time, if you can compare something like from Nepal and other countries, for example, Mozambique, so working on the resilience part, if you have some examples to compare something like that, that would be very great.
Thank you. Yeah, regarding the mobile application, that I think it won't be a problem because nowadays in most of the schools and school staff, they are using mobile phone, Android phone. So and the tool is very simple. We have also translated in Nepali language, local language. So that can be the participants, they can understand. And while we are using the tool, we have not found any difficulties because we have tested in 151 school, I think, if I'm correctly, I have not forgotten. So we have tested mobile application in 151 schools. So yeah, so all the participants, they, yeah,
maybe
so,
just can repeat it. It's 152, but yeah, that's
52. So they were using it one only. Guidance is required for the parents because all SMC head teacher students, they are fine, they can easily adapt it. And SMC member, if some of the SMC members, if they are illiterate, if they cannot read or write, then need to support them to explain the questions, but they can answer it. They easily understand the question and they can easily answer it. So it won't be a problem. So, and only using the tool is not important. The utilization of the outcomes from that tool is important. So after using the assessment tool and identifying the gap or the area to be improved, and intervention or activities for these areas is important. So that need to be focused in the school and also in the municipalities. So so how they can use that tool and how they can benefit from the outcomes, how they can identify the gaps and how these can be they can incorporate it in their planning process. And so that is the importance. So we, before like application, that need to be focused in the school as well as in the municipality. So that is the key important part. So while talking like comparing with Nepal and other countries, so Mozambique recently, I have I have not been since a long time. Just a month ago, I have been here, and I'm not able to visit many sites. But after like knowledge from some of the sites, so Nepal earthquake was the main challenge for us. Here, cyclone is another challenge. So contextualization is required. Like in in Mozambique context, we have like a cyclone is the key one. So the resilience should be more focused on cyclone, but other social other part is same, like behavior with the teacher and students, like other hazards, other soft components, social aspect is that's a common in all the countries. Only the context is different. So I don't see much more difference in terms of like school resilience in these two country office. And I was also like a few years ago, I also visited Myanmar and I visited some of the schools. So in Myanmar, the same situation. So just they have the community or the school, they need building, but they forget about other associated hazards and other social aspects. So these are some of my like observation.
Rishi, if I may also ask one final question to Yadav, again sharing some experience for which I would like him to comment. You know, Yadav, when we started this effort together, I mean, the whole project was pretty much about community resilience in developing countries and in Nepal in particular. But I think that the more that we started working with you on this, we somehow appreciated that community resilience is not necessarily a privilege of the developed world, because sometimes I felt that, particularly in Nepal, the local communities had stronger social ties than in many parts of the developed world. It was the financial aspect that was different than the infrastructure, and probably the crisis management. I mean, the funding part, yes, but the social part in terms of resilience is not necessarily inferior in Nepal or in the developed world. In some cases, maybe it is even superior. What do you think about this?
Sorry, Tassos, I could not able to like.
I can repeat my question. I was telling you that in our project, we were looking to enhance the community resilience in Nepal and in the developing world. But working with you and the local people, I realized that on the social dimension, the local communities in Nepal were probably stronger than in many countries, which are in theory more developed. It is just the financial metrics, let's say, that are inferior in Nepal or in low-income countries. The social part, the coherence, how families work with the teachers. I realized that the parents are much more in collaboration with their teachers compared to our own family in the Western world. And I think this is probably something we should factor in when we're assessing community resilience in low-income countries, that some parts are really strong and some people need to capitalize more of that while working on the financial aspect as well.
Yeah, you're true, Tassos. But in Nepal, nowadays, if we like compare with the urban and rural, even in the like the remote districts, we have semi-urban and rural areas. Like district headquarters seems to be like semi-urban and the rural area. So in semi-urban, so most of the educated people, they send their children in private schools, and they don't have like any interest with the public schools. Who are educated, they are known about some like school resilience or other social components. So their interest is less. And if you go to the urban rural area, so the parents, they are mostly they are not educated parents, and they don't know all these components. And though they have their like indigenous knowledge, but we need to capitalize, and we need to convince them. But as you mentioned, like the social coherence is very good in Nepal, because the parents and teachers, the support from the community in the schools is still, because in many country offices, in many countries that I have visited, it's very hard to get support from the community to build the schools. But in Nepal, it's still like 10-15% community contribution easily we can get in the rural communities. They are providing either in terms of cash or in terms of volunteer labor or in terms of kind support. So that's a good things that is still in our country, and they have been providing very good support to the education. But in terms of like physical improvement, they are providing support. If they have to build the school building, they are ready to provide volunteer labor or kind support. But the social part that is hidden, that is still lacking. How they can support schools for that social perspective is still lacking, and maybe they don't have like knowledge on that. So that need to be encourage them. Like, this is also your area. You can easily support schools to enhance educational resilience in the community, not only for the physical infrastructure. In other social aspect, your contribution is also important, and you have to provide that support that need to be enhanced, I think.
Thank you very much. This has been really very insightful, Yadav. Rishi?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Yadavji, for your time and sharing, mainly importantly, sharing your experience and perceptions that you have gained over the years, and also this your engagement and your suggestions to update this tool that we have developed for the self-assessment of school community. So we are very thankful to you, and we'd like to close the session as of now.